Good morning, everyone, and my warmest greetings to you and your family on this Memorial Day 2012. Thank you so much, all of you, for taking the time from your holiday to come out here today and remember what this day is really all about. It is an honor and a humbling privilege to be your speaker today, but in a real sense, I am not your speaker. I'm a speaker for the dead, for the 29 men and women whose names are on those crosses right in front of me and who are marked on these stones with a little white star next to their name. On those memorials nearby, Foxborough has caused the names of its honored war dead to be etched in stone because stone survives the longest life and serves to remind generations to come of who these war dead are and what it is they sacrificed, their hopes, their dreams, their very life, so that we could live ours. These are the people for whom I speak today. I will tell you their story because they cannot, and yet they want very much for you to know their story. They all died for you. That is not some tired old cliche. What did you think about when you were 17 or 18, or will think about when you're 17 and 18? That's the age of the vast majority of the men and women who served in our wars. What did you think about when you were that age? Did you think about where to take your date? If it would be miniature golf, or a movie, or ice cream? Did you agonize over college applications, if you would get your first choice? Did you think about impressing a prospective employer as you tried for your first real job? The people on those crosses and the people on those stones considered other dilemmas. They worried if their gun was clean enough to kill their enemy when he came again in a human wave attack. They wondered if they could stay warm enough to survive another night in a cold, wet foxhole, just so they could worry if they would survive the enemy artillery barrage that would greet another dawn. Some worried if their skills had been learned well enough to save the life of the wounded soldier suddenly placed in their hands. The next time you consider if it will be the new reality show or NCIS, or whether you will grill or eat out, consider what the soldiers whose names are on those crosses considered while they drew their last gasping breath. They all fought, and many died, hungry, cold, lonely, in terrible fear in some faraway place, distant from the love of their family and friends. That truth is not a cliche. And we cannot remind ourselves often enough of what they did for all of us. Do you enjoy your life? Look around. Do you see your beautiful families, your good friends? Do you see a community that for over 200 years has enjoyed the sweet taste of freedom? What have you become? A carpenter, a lawyer, a teacher, a fireman, a policeman? For those of you with your career still before you, what will you become? Do any of you kids dream of one day being an astronaut and flying to the stars? Who among you would like to be a doctor and maybe find the cure for cancer? What is your hobby? What do you do with your fun time? Do you play softball, build model cars, go to the beach? Do you give time to a scout troop or a youth athletic team? Are you still young and trying to earn your Eagle rank? Maybe you're a community leader, like our selectmen. Or perhaps you just enjoy politics in general. Do you write letters to the editor? Do you attend town meeting and speak your mind? What church do you attend? Are you Catholic, Protestant, Jewish, or Muslim? What God do you worship, or do you choose not to worship at all? We all have these and many more choices, you see. We call them the freedom of religion, and the freedom of the press, and the right to free speech, and there are many, many more. All of us enjoy the right to pursue what we wish to be, to worship in the manner we see fit, and to speak our minds without fear of vengeance or recrimination. Your life and every part of it, your hopes and your dreams, and everyone and everything you love was protected and saved by the people whose names are on these stones and on those crosses. They are all veterans of war and of combat. I said earlier today that I am a speaker for the dead. But for every one of those honored dead that did not come home, there are many still living that did. If we surely have an obligation to know those dead, we have a unique opportunity to know them better by learning what the living combat veterans can still tell us. Have you ever known a combat vet? Have you ever heard them talk about their time in war? If you did, like Jim mentioned earlier, you have had a rare and fortunate experience. Combat veterans, you see, almost never tell their stories. Some of them think that people don't really care. Most just don't know how to tell their story. How, after all, do they use mere words to tell a story that is simply unimaginable? How do they paint a picture for you with only one color, the only one they can remember, the color of blood? How do they tell you about the sound of war when they only can recall a few sounds, the explosions of bombs, the crack of bullets, and the screams and cries of pain and fear? And worst of all, what do they tell you about the smell of war and of death? Even if they could, most do not want to talk about what they wish they could forget. But please don't ever comfort yourself by believing that they forget. They never forget. You feel the camaraderie of friends and see the warm flicker of a campfire, but they stare into the flames and see the burning napalm again. You gasp and smile at the explosions and cracks of fireworks on the 4th of July, but they wince and cringe because they remember the helpless terror of being under an enemy artillery barrage. When you hear a loud crash from a nearby construction site and you share a laugh when your veteran jumps at the sound, but he or she walks away, trying to catch their breath and still their racing heart, and they try to seem normal, but they aren't, and they know. They will never escape what they have seen, and they visit that dark place over and over again in their dreams, where bombs and bullets tear flesh and death waits and men hate, and there is no compassion or kindness. They hate all of it, and they cannot tell you about it. But they desperately want you to know when their heart was first wounded and their mind was scarred forever, so you will at least respect them a little, just a fraction as much as we respect the latest winner of Dancing with the Stars. And so I speak to you today for both the dead and for the living, so both can help you know what both so desperately want you to know. And now you do know some things that maybe you didn't know earlier today, but do not think you now know war. You cannot know war unless you have lived the savage intensity and brutal insanity of it. But you can honor those who know war. And so here is the point of my comments today. You can't understand but a small part of what those veterans know, but you can honor their sacrifice and the depth of their courage, whether living or dead. You can be grateful and mindful every day of what they have given us. That is what I want you to know about war, especially you young kids. Their very simple request from those men and women on those white crosses that they make with their pain and their grief: please, please do not forget us. Do not leave us alone. Do not take what we did for you for granted. Count your blessings every day. Do not miss any of the joy and happiness in your life. Never forget that it took the death and suffering of others so you can enjoy the warm sun of a May morning, the wonder of your wedding day, and the magic of the birth of your children. Breathe deep the zest of freedom and let it give you wings every day. And so I issue this challenge to every one of you today. Get to know a veteran, at least one living one and at least one dead one. Pick a name off these stone tablets, and especially these 29 white crosses. Before you leave, and do what you can to learn about that man or woman. Contact their family, if you can, to discover who that veteran was. Did he or she have a sweetheart? Did they plan to spend their lives together? What did that veteran do before the war? What did they plan to do when they came home? And if you can find that family, say thanks too. They deserve that, because that family knows the worst part of war, what it is like to lose someone you love far too young and in the service of others. And take the time to know a living veteran. Ask him or her about their experiences, especially the World War II vets. We lose so many of them every day, and soon they will all be gone. Do this before it is too late. There is a reason we call them the greatest generation. They know why we call them that. If you don't know, ask them. I promise you it will be an uplifting experience for you. Ask to see their pictures. Ask about the people they served with and if they lost any of them. Ask if they served in any of the great battles, Africa, D-Day, the Pacific, or the Bulge. Talk to our Korea and Vietnam vets. It's rare that anyone shows interest in their wars, but they fought with honor and love for their home, and they deserve your interest and respect if for no better reason than that they rarely receive it. And of course, ask the young women of our most recent wars in Iraq and Afghanistan. Maybe that young man right over there standing in fatigues who just came home from Afghanistan just a few weeks ago. Show all of them that you care about them and that you won't allow them or their sacrifice to be forgotten. In this effort, you need not be afraid that you will hear unimaginable stories of pain and suffering. As I already told you, they find it hard to talk about that. Instead, they will tell you about the good memories of this service, their buddies, the places they served, and yes, there may be some sadness. But take the time to hear their story and to show that you remember them and you honor what they have done for us. Most of all, when you go home tonight, think about what these good men and women gave you. Pause a moment to quietly think about the freedoms you enjoy and the family you love. Give your kids an extra hug and be grateful for the good things in your life. Because more than anything else, that is what the dead asked me to say to you today. Thank you for coming and showing that you care. God bless our veterans, God bless all of you, and God bless America.